Welcome back to this Python for Lab Scientist or Python for Analytical Chemists video series. And in this series, I am going over mistakes that I have made in my data science journey. I am a PhD lab scientist, and I am integrating Python into my day-to-day workflow, and I'm trying to help you learn from my mistakes so that you can enhance your own analysis. So in this video, I want to illustrate a common occurrence that you might encounter as you look at your data using Python. But first, let me illustrate the problem. So let's say you have a spectrum like this that I'm representing graphically, but this might be in a table. Now, there are a couple of different ways that this data might be represented. We have our original chemistry-based axes, where we have Wavenumber 0 to 3500. Let's just say this is in the Raman range or IR. It really doesn't matter what the experiment is. But there's also a different indexing that might happen when you put this data into a Python array or data table. And let me illustrate what I mean. Here, we might say if we want to isolate this peak here, we could say we want something from 2200 Wavenumber to, let's just call this 2900. And that makes sense as a chemist. But depending on how this table is integrated, it actually might show as a range between 0 and, let's say, 35 for simplicity. So again, we have our chemistry set where we say we want something between these two wave numbers, and gaining some clarity into what indexing we have is going to really matter, because if I choose the wrong version, I might select the wrong range. So for instance, let's say I wanted this and my data table does not have 2200 or 2900 spots, we could get an index error. So that is one option. We have an index error because 2200 does not exist. Or let's say we are aware of the indexing and we want to choose an index value of 22. Let's just say there's a 100 to 1 change in our value, but then we plot it and it still looks weird. Let's say it's now compressed between, we have our figure here. So this still doesn't quite match. We try to put this back on a chemistry axis. So in the Python notebook, I want to demonstrate what this looks like and how we can understand, are we using a chemistry axis or are we using a Python data axis or data indexing? Let me show you. The notebook I'm about to show you was generated from my Python for Analytical Chemists series on GitHub. And if we go to Notebooks, Scientific Computing, then you will see we have that exact notebook here. So let's get back into ours. So let's say we have two peaks, one at 1715 wave number and the other one at 1600 wave number. And if we were to plot that data, it would look something like this. And let's say our region of interest is between around 1700 to 1750 roughly. Now let's figure out how we can select this region using the data arrays that we have. So here is one way we can try to select a region from our data. I have an array called absorbance, and let's just say we have a chunk between index position 100 to 160. Let me illustrate what that looks like so that you can gain the same intuition that I have about this data. So let's just look at chunk. And we see that this looks just like baseline. It's a flat line where everything is 0.2. Now, if we go back to absorbance, let me just pull this here and start looking at the table. Let me paste that. And let's select a different range. Let's look at, let's say, between 200 and 260. You can see that eventually we start to see some values change or probably starting to go up one of these slopes. And so let's look more. And I really want to show the challenge we have when we are looking at data in this way. Where, okay, now we're in a range where we're starting to see our intensity values increase, our absorbance values increase, but this is not a very optimal way to try to select any region based on the Python-based indexing. We're just slicing through this array using this index-based location. It's much better to try to slice the data using the chemistry axes. So thinking about how we define these peaks, we don't define them based on their array location. We define them based on the wave number range by which you want to slice. So let's go through and actually select the region by value. This is where it really matters. And so I want to illustrate to you what wavelength looks like, this array called WN. And this is where we have the data that's actually encoding the chemistry. And so we can select a region, let's say a carbonyl mask, for instance, where we want to select the wavelength values that are greater than or equal to 680 and the wavelength values that are less than or equal to 760. And we're going to store that in an array called carbonyl mask. So let me illustrate what that looks like. And this is definitely how I recommend using these notebooks. No need to rewrite the scripts. It's really about trying to understand how we can take these lessons and then apply them to your own space. So if we look at the mask, we're going to get an array of true and false values. And that is going to correspond to where these conditions are true or false. And so if we now look at carbonyl wave numbers, you'll see what this looks like now, where we have a range between 680 and 760, because we're going to pass that into this wavelength array. And then we have our absorbance values. And so now let's look at carbonyl absorbance. And you can see this is the region where that peak is defined. So the difference here is we're using the wavelength arguments there. And here we are just trying to randomly select a range by which we think the peak might exist. And this is the same thing I was trying to illustrate here, where we would really want to define these peaks based on the actual chemistry wavelengths versus just some arbitrary numerical indexing. So if we're able to identify regions of interest based on their wave numbers, how about we actually do a little bit of peak picking within that? So within a slice, we might want to identify the local maximum. For example, we slice here and we only care about what's in this region. We could then look for where the local maximum, or perhaps even the global maximum, occurs within this slice, so we can actually determine where the peak height is. To do that in Python, we can use the argmax method from NumPy, and this will give us the index of the maximum value within that region, and then we can apply the same filtering logic for iPeak. Let me illustrate what that looks like. So iPeak looks like this, where we're just going to get an integer value. This is the index value. This doesn't mean much by way of the chemistry, but we can look at what the carbonyl wavelength is at that peak. So let's now look at peak wavelength. Again, this is what translates it back to the chemistry. And then we can use the height using this logic here. So we see that our wavelength is at 1714 and the peak absorbance is 0.817 absorbance units. And then we can do all sorts of other things by trying to use this wavelength argument to put in or identify gaps if, say, the detector goes out, all sorts of ways that we can extend this logic to many other circumstances from our instrument data or laboratory experiments. And so this ability to move through the data and understand if we're using the Python generic indexing or a chemistry relevant indexing, whether that's time from a chromatogram or wavelengths or wave numbers, it doesn't matter. But it's important to understand what is the indexing criteria and then adapt that back into the chemistry domain. If you have any questions, let me know in the comments below. If you want to look at other notebooks in this series, visit the repository, and I'm going to continue to make videos over marching through this so that you can improve your knowledge. Now, of course, these are the sorts of things that AI can really do, but they cannot augment your scientific judgment. And so I'm really trying to help you gain that intuition as we do these experiments together. In any case, I'll see you in the next video. Peace.